I am posting this on behalf of a friend of mine. He is a stepdad to 4 boys. The oldest is a 17-year-old male. The kid is an athlete. He is a good student and a smart, popular kid. Well, now he has a girlfriend and he is asking his mom if he can have his new girlfriend come over to the house for private one-on-one time in his room. My friend, the stepdad, said absolutely not. Mom, however, is sympathetic. They sat down to discuss it, and it led to a huge argument where the stepdad put his foot down about rules in his house. What would you do in this situation? If you were the stepdad, how would you explain your thinking to the mom? Story 1. When I was 17 and 18, I had a smoking hot girlfriend who spent enough time in my house that she practically lived there. A year later, my father sold the house, and I had to get my own apartment and pay all my own bills. I think one of the reasons it was an easy and successful transition into adulthood was because it was a transition into adulthood. I didn't go from a child living at home to a child living outside the home with absolute freedom. I went from a young adult living at home to a full-fledged adult living in the world. Not to mention those last years at home are a positive memory, which were the start of my father and me getting over the past and building what became a strong relationship as adults. I didn't have an easy life or safe childhood, but most of the people I know who had half as many challenges ended up 10 times worse off. In summary, it's a privilege to be able to let your children ease into adulthood. The world is going to come for them whether you like it or not. Dropping them into being adults unprepared is not kindness. The lucky ones get a little bit of time in a safe environment with training wheels on. Prolonging their adolescence against their will is not kindness. Story 2. I'd side with mom. Have a talk with him about consent, protection, and respecting the other members of the household. Teens are going to find a place to have sex. It may as well be at our place as in a car, parked on the edge of a hayfield. Not that I ever did that. Story 3. If they want to have sex, they are going to have sex. Would you rather they do it in the safety of your home or somewhere they are going to get caught and arrested for public indecency? Story 4. It's going to happen. The fact that they even asked means they probably aren't complete failures. Besides, what's worse than a stepdad? A controlling stepdad. They can both drive a 2,000-pound, 70 miles per hour vehicle but can't have their own experiences? Edit. Some upset stepdads here. What I'm saying is, if someone who definitely isn't my dad told me I couldn't have a relationship, the first thing I do is pursue it even more, because it's forbidden. You can either understand basic human behavior or be surprised when it happens. Also, using the fact that it's your house against your wife is shocking to me. It's just a relationship. He's not doing something illegal in your house. And believe it or not, having a teenage boy in your house means plenty has already happened there. Story 5. Imagine being responsible and comfortable enough to ask your mom, then your stepdad, even if they're being difficult. They're going to do it anyways, so you might as well educate and give them a proper space. Because if things arise like pregnancy, they won't tell you if you're overreacting. Story 6. I'm a parent, and honestly, after growing up in the Southern Baptist purity culture, I would allow them to have private time after an in-depth conversation with my son, stressing the importance of sex education, making sure his girlfriend is on birth control, and also providing him condoms and telling him he has to use one if he's going to have sex. Story 7. When I was 17, I would have done it anywhere. Being able to do it at home would have been the greatest. I met my wife at 15, and we didn't have kids until we were both 25. Having knowledge about what happens after solves a lot. Plus, my dad bought me condoms after they found out and said, "You all are going to do it anyway, so I better make sure you all are safe." Story 8. Okay, let's assume the girlfriend is also 17, and that 16 is the age of consent in your locale. I'm in the United Kingdom, and 16 is the age here, or at least it was when I was 16. And let's get over the other hurdle. The suggestion is they're either going to want to have sex or have sexual contact, hence wanting privacy. So once you're past that, what I would say to your friend is, while it's almost certainly not comfortable thinking about this going on under your roof, because I'm certain no parent or step-parent wants to imagine that any more than any kid wants to picture their parents doing it, if he says no, are they going to do it elsewhere? And are those places worse? Over at her place? Can he make sure they have condoms, etc.? In the back seat of his car? Can he make sure they don't get discovered and end up on a list? Or does he genuinely think he can stop them from doing it altogether? Because, well, he can't, short of locking his son in his room. Story 9. As others have said, kids are going to have sex regardless. This is a great time for education. The kid obviously already feels some level of comfort coming to you, his parents, at all. Keep that going by making sure the kid is safe, using protection, and understanding how both his anatomy and hers work. Ignorance is how you end up a teen parent. Story 10. Here are the downright facts. He is going to do it somewhere. Factual. Not one thing in the universe is going to stop that. Source: was once 17 with a girlfriend. Story 11. My parents just made sure I had condoms and always let me have sex in the safety of my home instead of risking it in other places. Teens will have sex whether you like it or not, and they will end up paying for a cheap room in a filthy place if necessary. Story 12. If you were a stepdad, how would you explain your thinking to mom? If I were a stepdad, I'd let my son invite his girlfriend over and give him guidance on how he should practice safe sex. This would signal to my son that he can trust me and confide in me regarding personal matters. When I had my first girlfriend in high school, my dad took me to the store to help me buy condoms. My parents and I had already had a discussion about sex when I was in middle school and how sexual urges are natural, but that it's important to be safe, use protection, and avoid an unplanned pregnancy. My parents were supportive of me becoming an adult and allowed me to embrace the sexual nature of being human. Their support allowed me to have a 6-year long-term relationship and not have an unplanned pregnancy. Story 13. If the guy does not allow it in his home, the kid and girlfriend will go somewhere else, which might not be as safe as his home. Tell the dad to talk to the kid about using protection, and tell the kid to inform the girlfriend's parents. If all is accepted, just let it happen. Story 14. I was allowed to do this as a teenager, and I think a lot of people here are jumping a little too quickly to sex. Fooling around definitely happened, but trying to fully get after it with my parents downstairs was not a very appealing prospect. That aside, the fact that they asked is a positive sign, and with some potentially uncomfortable conversations and making sure her parents are on the same page, I'm with mom on this one. Story 15. So he doesn't care at all if they do something elsewhere, as long as it's not in his house? Is he worried about them making a mess on the carpet or something? It's just a sort of strange angle to take here. I don't care what the kid does, but shield my poor innocent house's eyes from it. If it were me, I would defer to the mom, talk to the kid about being responsible, make sure he understands the impact that having a baby too early in life can have on your economic standing, etc. Story 16. They are going to do it in the safety of your home or in a car in a seemingly empty car park or something. The choice is yours. Either way, keeping teenagers from having sex is like trying to keep me from a pack of Haribo. It's going to happen. Story 17. My dad always acknowledged we were going to do these things anyway, and he'd rather we do it somewhere safe. You're not going to stop a 17-year-old from having sex, and it's proven time and time again that abstinence lecturing actually has the opposite effect. Basically, the stepdad is being foolish. Story 18. We have 3 boys. We preferred for them to entertain their girlfriends at home rather than out somewhere, in a car, and so on. Their stepdad is a fool and is probably power drunk about my house and under my roof. It reminds me of my dad, who was not a good father. Story 19. I was 15 when I lost my virginity. Horny teenagers will be horny teenagers. It's like people forget what it was like to be a horny teenager, and we all were at one point. People are weird about this. It's going to happen either in your house, in their car, or a McDonald's bathroom. Story 20. Cock blocking your stepson while being intimate with his biological mother. 10 out of 10. Let the kid live a little, at least it's in a safe, supervised environment, and they don't have to sneak off to some sketchy place and risk other dangers. Story 21. If I were the stepdad, I wouldn't be so upset about it. Let the kid experience it. Unplanned pregnancies also happen because of doing it in secret without sex education when it's forbidden and so on. Get with the times, man. Story 22. Stepdad sounds like an unpleasant person. What is he worried about? His stepson enjoying his new relationship with his girlfriend. What's the problem? His mother has said it's okay. So why does he think he can intervene? The role of a stepparent is to support the child alongside the wishes of the parent. not to be obstructive. If the mother said she's fine and the girlfriend's parents are fine, but he's preventing it due to some arbitrary house rules, then your friend is what we call in England an old stick in the mud. A dull, unadventurous person who's set on never changing their mind. If it were me, when I was 16, I was out having experiences in various places, house parties, strangers' bedrooms, etc. At least in his own bedroom with his girlfriend, when his parents know what's going on. The stepdad should provide him with protection, advise him to be safe, and leave for the afternoon to let them have an awkward few hours figuring things out together, as teenagers should do. Story 23. They are going to have sex somewhere. You can make it somewhere safe and ensure condoms are available. You can make it so your son is more comfortable talking about issues with you, or you can make it all worse. Story 24. Well, it's time for the talk about safe sex. And the friend should definitely reconsider his denial. They will have sex, and there is nothing he can do to prevent it. However, he can allow them to do it in a safe environment. Story 25. Tell your friend to stop being a 19th century Puritan and let the boy explore his awakening sexuality. Just as long as 1. The girl's parents know and agree. The kids both know about and practice safe sex. They know about and respect the practice of consent and boundaries. Edit. Also, instruct the boy to forget everything he might have seen in porn videos. That is fake, and most girls don't enjoy being treated aggressively like they're undergoing road construction. Instead, take your time, include plenty of foreplay, and start gently. You can always get a little wilder later. Story 26. I am not a parent, but I would tell the kid that practicing safe sex is important and no means no. It has to be consensual. Respect the girl's decision and be a gentleman about it. Story 27. I can never understand why a parent wouldn't prefer their child to be in a safe environment using safe practices rather than engaging in risky behavior outdoors. If the mom is okay with it and the parents of the girl are too, then there's genuinely no issue. Just make sure they know how to be safe and leave them to it. Story 28. In most of the world, he is above the age of consent, so it has nothing to do with the parents. Also, it is the stepdad, not even the guy's actual parent. As long as the girlfriend is close in age and they are both willing and consenting, I see no problem with it. If I were the stepdad, I would have a sit down with him and explain consent and contraception, as well as how to be respectful and treat women well. Then I would take the mom on a date on the day he has his girlfriend around so they can have some privacy, and I get a cute date night. Story 29. I had plenty of alone time with my girlfriend in high school that also didn't result in sex. 17 is old enough to be left alone with a girlfriend or boyfriend while the parents are home and downstairs. In less than 12 months, this kid will be old enough to be able to move out and dorm in college, old enough to sign up for the military and be shipped out to basic, old enough to get their own tattoo, or do most things adults can do. But right now, they're too young to be alone with their girlfriend. Realistically, who knows or says this will even result in sex at all? The kid should be taught about safe sex practices and be trusted. They're not 13. I couldn't possibly see myself being this strict when my son's this age. Parenting is about building a future, well-rounded adult. Treating them like a child right up until the clock strikes midnight on their birthday does no good. By 18, the years you spent preparing them for adulthood are put to the test. Story 30. I want the original poster to keep in mind that he's going to get a large number of answers from people who are themselves 15 to 18 years old, and so may want to take the general consensus reached here with a significant grain of salt. Story 31. We were never allowed to have boyfriends or girlfriends or any friends of the opposite sex in our rooms by ourselves growing up, and we all turned out fine. Story 32. I applaud this kid for communicating his needs for privacy and his intentions. He is putting trust into his parents' hands for a sensitive topic, something that most kids will not do. I know someone whose kid recently got caught in a parking lot for some private time, and I had to ask the parents if they are mad that it happened or mad that they got caught. Kids are going to do what they are going to do regardless of what you say, whether it is in your home or not. Story 33. In my opinion, it should only be permitted if all parents of both parties are willing to accept the risk of a pregnancy and the ramifications therein. Safe sex only goes so far, and unless you are missing organs, there is no 100% guarantee against pregnancy. Also, to be clear, I am only talking about a case where both or either party is under 18 because then it is legally statutory rape, and there are ramifications for that. Edit to say, it has been pointed out to me that in some places the age of consent is lower than 18. In those countries, I would still believe what I do, but I would change the age under which I am talking about. Now, on that matter, I do not believe it should be legal for those legally required to be in school to be able to have sex in any country. Story 34. As others have mentioned, they are going to have private one-on-one time regardless of what stepdad thinks. The only difference will be whether it is in the house or somewhere else. If stepdad would rather they sneak around, then he can enforce his rules, but it is going to happen one way or the other. Story 35. I hope that if I have children, I can set the foundation for this conversation strongly enough to trust that it's been set, such that if I ever find myself in this situation, I can simply say, "Can't you just sneak around behind my back like a normal kid?"